Vice won't exist in the next 5 years. Here's why. Let's find out why. I'm not gonna cap. I already watched some of it. My mic was off, but I'm gonna skip to basically the part that matters, I guess. So right here. So the reason why Vice started falling off because they were clickbaity and they weren't given as much good content like they used to.
Because of this, one of Vice's co-founders, Gavin McInnes, saw this growing issue and left the company years earlier in 2008, well before things started getting really bad. Gavin stated during his departure that the expanding influence advertisers were getting over their content was not something he wanted to deal with.
Advertising over independence. That's honestly a tough subject because everybody wants to get paid, right? But as an artist, you definitely want to prioritize your art over just making money, and it's super hard to do that, especially in a corporation or in a company. Super hard to do that.
He knew this clickbait factory path was going to ruin all the credibility and reputation Vice had worked so hard to build. And it turned out that Vice's main editorial board and the advertising executives had been butting head for a long time, and Gavin had finally gotten sick of it. It was an omen of things to come, because what was even worse than the co-founder's departure was that big media moguls like Rupert Murdoch would soon be injecting millions into Vice, with Rupert Murdoch specifically
They're gonna want a return on that investment. Funding these trips to Africa with warlords ain't cheap. You gotta pay the warlords some money to come visit them. You don't just show up with cameras like, hey, can I document you? Nah, buddy, a lot of money goes into stuff like that.
Injecting $70 million into the company. Now, for those who don't know,
we're gonna need a return on investment.
Centralized ownership of hundreds of publishing outlets, such as the Wall Street Journal, The Sun, The Times, Fox News, and many others. And Murdoch also invested heavily into Vice around 2013, and only a year later, Vice would then receive even more investments from another power-hungry media giant by the name of Disney, who purchased 10% ownership of Vice during 2014, and later gained an even further share of around 20% after another investment in 2015. And this was great for the short term, allowing the Vice co-founder Shane Smith to become a billionaire, but in the long term, this was disastrous. This all seemed too good to be true,
while you're ahead.
Because it was. Little did anyone know what was coming for Vice over the following years. But before we continue, I want to tell you about today's sponsor, Morning Brew. Morning Brew is a free daily newsletter delivered to you Monday to Sunday that gets you up to speed.
Man, fuck it. I'm stealing content. Let's watch the ad then.
On business, finance, and tech news in just
Give me
5
more time
minutes.
to eat.
Before I subscribed to Morning Brew, I start my mornings aimlessly browsing YouTube and Twitter. But now with Morning Brew, I get a summary of relevant stories that are really informative. For example, I learned that the pandemic is reported to have wiped out decades of progress on math and reading, with national...
Bro, the school system has been going down for a very, very, very long time. The pandemic just made it worse. Like, the school system was already going like this. I predict within the next 80 years, you know how we have A, B, C, and F, and B is considered average? I believe in the next 80 years, C will be the new average, B will be like above average, and then A will be excellent. C will have to be the new average. Maybe they bring back the D. I heard they used to have bring back the D. I remember they used to have D's. Oh, I don't remember. I remember people telling me they used to have D's growing up when they were in school. They're probably going to bring the D back, make the C the new B, and move on from there in like the next 80 years. You can quote me on that. I'll see you in 80 years.
Test scores for US 9-year-olds in math and reading proficiency have dropped to the lowest levels in decades. This is the first decline since the government started tracking the data in 1971, highlighting that COVID's toll on education is likely to have economic consequences.
It's not just COVID, man. That's just a cover, not a cover up. I'm not saying it's a conspiracy or anything. It's not just that. The No Child Left Behind plan that Obama put in the circle, that did it too. No Child Left Behind plan literally forced a lot of schools to start automatically passing kids, because if they didn't, they were going to get less money and shit like that. So when you try to introduce money in education, the money is a priority. Don't believe me? Look at the U.S. college system. It's obviously skewed for whoever has more money. In fact, a lot of rich kids, I was going to say a lot of smart kids actually get into the school because their parents have enough money to buy them into the school, which is highly illegal and unethical, but it happens anyway.
Consequences for years to come. There's absolutely no reason not to subscribe to Morning Brew if you're interested in business, finance, or tech. It's completely free and takes less than 15 seconds to subscribe.
Bro, they gave me 10 McNuggets, not McNuggets, this is Burger King. They gave me 10 nuggets and only 1 barbecue sauce, bro. What the hell? How am I gonna dunk my nuggets in only 1 sauce?
Sign up for free by visiting morningbrewdaily.com/moon or by clicking the link in the description below. It turned out that the co-founder of Vice, Shane Smith, had been lying about Vice's real value all throughout the company's entire history. Shane
Well,
had
why
been
wouldn't he?
consistently overblowing the potential of his media outlet, and using his early skills as a salesman, successfully fooled many of his investors. That's why you'll be hard-pressed to find any kind of data or statistics regarding Vice's value or popularity.
It's all fake.
Because even the people who owned and invested in the company didn't actually know its true worth. Since the company's founding, Vice has done everything
And not knowing its true worth can make it worth so much more. Don't believe me? Look at crypto.
it can to hide Vice's real value. But once investors eventually found out, they soon realized what was going on and called for drastic measures. They needed money now because Vice was failing to hit any profits. Each year they
need that
would below their
recoup.
targets. And with this rapid pile-on of major corporate investors, Vice had to do something fast. So the
Need to
first
recoup.
and easiest way to make money was to get more advertisements.
Yep.
However, advertisers
Or
weren't
ads.
particularly fond of
Nobody
being
wants
associated
to.
with controversial and edgy political topics,
Yep.
which was Vice's core premise.
YouTube. Prime example. Everything was PG back in the day. Then all these scandals came out. The adpocalypse. I remember those days.
And so, in order to meet the demands of investors, Vice would need to change their content to appease the advertisers to appease the investors. So Vice's first move would be to sanitize their content. And it was this kind of short-term
And that will ruin their brand, and nobody wants to watch sanitized content.
thinking that would be detrimental to Vice. Instead of journalism that was priding itself as being on the edge of what was socially acceptable, Vice was now getting sanitized by the investors who were supposed to be helping the company succeed. Although by posting these cleaner videos, Vice wasn't getting the same kind of positive reception that their older videos received. So much so that a lot of people started asking questions about it. Many began asking
Midlife
why Vice
crisis.
they once knew was now getting bombarded with dislikes, seemingly out of nowhere. From 2015 onwards, there were forum posts after forum posts discussing the fall of Vice's content. They went from making genuinely good documentaries from dangerous locations to overhyping ordinary stories to try and get more viewers. I really liked the content. It was good and hard-hitting, but then it all went to shit. They're trying too hard to stay hip and cool and underground. The quality of Vice's videos seems to have dropped, and several of their headlines are nothing more than clickbait. Furthermore, Vice's clickbait
Hold on. When was this posted? 6 years ago. Okay, so I'm not going to do the math, but if this comment is relaying to what he's talking about now when Vice got cleaned, that doesn't make any sense. If they get cleaned, how are they underground? The quality of Vice videos dropping, yeah, if they got clean, I understand that, but how are they hip and cool and underground? How are they all three of those? How can you be hip and cool and still be underground? What the fuck, man? This is why I don't read comments, bro. The comment section always full
seems to have
of
dropped,
random
and
shit.
several of their headlines are nothing more than clickbait. Furthermore, Vice's clickbait content would continue to erode all the reputation it had once built. The clickbait factory was turning in on itself. BuzzFeed was facing the consequences, and now Vice was too. Relying on these crappy videos like single Japanese woman buying the boyfriend experience and Pussy Riot gets whipped in Sochi to get anyone
Wait, what? What?
single Japanese
Slut ever? What?
woman buying the boyfriend experience
Pussy Riot gets whipped? Bro, what the
and
hell?
Pussy Riot gets whipped in Sochi to get anywhere near the sorts of views they used to get 10 years before. And while Vice has always used at least some amount of clickbait, this empty
that's
content
normal.
is now beginning to get on people's nerves. And by just simply taking a glance at the state of the channel's most popular uploads, this decline in Vice's content quality is extremely clear and apparent. Medically assisted sex, the world's first male sex doll, sex gurus, answering questions and other similar topics are pretty much the only kind of documentaries
All people, so they went from having a fan base of potheads and drug addicts to sex crazed maniacs. I love it.
Vice is finding any kind of success in. Now, you may be wondering how the company's advertisers and shareholders allow them to
Yeah,
make
how
this
are they
kind of
allowing
content.
that?
And the only reason is because sexy, inappropriate
'Cause it's
material
making
is
money.
much easier to get away with
Yep.
compared to politically inappropriate
Yep.
material.
Sex
Advertisers don't
sells.
care about sex, they care about politics.
Sex sells. The oldest occupation in the world, prostitution. Sex sells. Sex makes that money, baby. Don't believe me? Look at Twitch, baby. Go to Just Chatting, baby. Look at them girls. Look at them girls. They fine, ain't they?
So instead of the Vice that was once known for reporting on both of these controversial subjects, their possible video ideas have now been pretty much cut in half, causing much of Vice's core audience to now abandon the channel. And as a result, there has
Abandon
been a
ship!
steady decline in the channel's views and revenue. Additionally, the increase in shareholder sway is almost certainly why Vice short-sightedly started branching their attention towards different channels, a decision that would also compound to cripple the company even more. Because Vice's attention wasn't only focused on their clickbait factory, they were now focusing on so many many other channels. Vice Munchies, Vice News, Vice Sports, Vice Life, and all the others eventually began.
They overextended their reach before fixing the foundation. Ooh, what a way to go. But usually if they do that, something usually will take off, right? Like you have so many channels, eventually there's going to be that one channel that just takes off and everybody likes. I remember H3 used to make skits and stuff like that. Then they made a couple podcasts. The podcast shot up. They stopped making skit videos. Now the podcast, I don't know where the podcast is. I fell off that train a while back. But usually when you branch out, sometimes something works, you know?
And popping up out of nowhere. And whilst this might have been good on the surface to generate more revenue, these ventures detracted from Vice's core channel, while also causing their intended audience to spread themselves even thinner. It seemed like the shareholders were overwhelmingly out of touch when deciding where to take Vice as a media outlet. If someone wanted to watch videos on food or sports, there were hundreds of other channels to get a better and more focused perspective instead of watching it on Vice. This decision to bring about other channels made Vice just look like another typical media outlet.
And that's when you start buying other people's channels.
Instead of the edgy organization that once reported on things that no one else would even touch. And so unsurprisingly, this decision to launch more channels and lower their focus on the main one caused Vice to start noticeably falling downhill throughout the mid-2010s. Although the company was still finding occasional successes with their new releases, these videos certainly weren't of any quality.
I fell in love with a sex doll. 7 million views, jeez.
Looking at their most popular uploads, all the recent videos gaining any kind of tractions are the ones using massive sexual clickbait. And to make matters even worse, Vice's downfall wasn't good news for the company's shareholders either, as most of them would end up losing their money. Once they found out that Vice was always artificially inflated, investors would start to pull out of the company. All the CEO of Vice's rhetoric about pay Vice to join its youth revolution or get left behind, and his claims of having a monopoly on the young adult audience was now slipping through Vice's fingers. In fact, Vice reported themselves to somehow be worth a whopping $5.7 billion.
In 2017?
In fact, Vice reported themselves to somehow be worth a whopping $5.7 billion at one point. And
oh, $5.7 billion, huh? Okay, yeah, sure. Keep dreaming, bro. Keep dreaming, buddy.
Stated that they would later be worth $50 billion by the end of the decade.
Okay, now that one's so ridiculous, I can't even laugh at that one. That one's not even funny. That's just,
unfortunately for Vice and its investors, the supposed influence and value they had was so unrealistic and absurd that Vice's house of cards is now tumbling into the ground. You see, Vice's overblown value claims have left the company out to dry multiple times. As an example, only 1 year after claiming to be worth billions, Vice missed their annual revenue target by $100 million, all to the displeasure of the company's investors. This wasn't the only time that Vice has inflated their market value either. In 2021, Vice was planning a special purpose acquisition company merger with 7GC, a deal valued at nearly $3 billion, but the arrangement ended up falling through. This was a disaster for Vice, as this attempted merger was the only way that Vice would make up for the lost revenue. This merger would have built a bridge to quote, figure out something, a phrase highlighting just how lost Vice was and what
figure out something
the company. This whole deal ended up causing the chairman of Vice to relinquish even more of his voting control and forced him to spread it even further amongst investors. With the investors dragging down Vice, now having more power and...
If I was a CEO, I'd just abandon ship, sell it all, abandon ship, because at this rate, it ain't working out, partner.
Influence over the company's operations. And with shareholders like Rupert Murdoch and Disney controlling Vice, it's not hard to see why the company began aiming more towards safer content instead of the edgy material that made them popular in the first place.
Ain't got no water.
And in all honesty, what are these investors supposed to do with Vice in its current state anyways? There might be a clearer direction if the news outlet was based on a single channel, but there are just so many sub-stories to worry about as well.
They own Noisy? What?
Well, the only thing that Vice can really do to redeem itself is to go back to the kind of edgy content they were always known for. But if that...
And it's too late. It's way too late. Even if they did, no, that ship done sailed, bro. You can't have that ship sail, abandon, go to a new ship. And then when that ship starts falling, try and go to the first ship's gone, bro.
If that's the case, what are they doing with Vice Sports and Munchies? These channels are all flopping apart from Vice News. The company is essentially trapped in a never-ending cycle of cleaning their content, disregarding their audience, losing money, and in turn being forced by investors to further clean their content. While at the same time, investors keep squeezing as much money from their workers as possible. With the company now being forced by investors to employ the self-imposed 20/20 rule. Hire 22-year-olds, pay them $22,000, and work them 22 hours a day.
What the hell? What the hell? 22-year-olds and pay them $22,000 a year? What the hell?
Resulting in even lower quality content as Vice's clickbait factory goes into the ground. Because of this, it's not very surprising that Vice's original employees are now leaving the organization to start their own ventures instead. Vice's key journalist and beloved personality Hamilton Morris would soon no longer be available, as he would end up terminating his Pharmacopoeia series and employment at Vice a few years later in 2021. And even worse, the original co-founders behind Vice, the guys who made some of the best content Vice has ever done, have now all taken big steps back from making any documentaries. And when looking at the condition of the company today, it's clear to see that there is just no passion left in their audience, investors, or the employees themselves, which became all too clear when Disney went on record and actually publicly stated how poor a decision it was to invest in Vice, claiming investing $400 million in the company was one of the worst mistakes they've ever made, with Vice's profitability taking a steady nosedive almost exactly when Disney started putting funds into the company, causing Disney to
oh my god,
that they no longer believed there would ever be a return on investment for their shares in Vice. It's so bad that Disney...
So at this point, Disney, they're just going to stop putting funds into it, which will drop it even more. But who runs Vice? Like, the CEOs are gone, right? It's a company, whatever. It's a company channel. So will they just sell the channel to somebody? Like, I don't know.
Total initial investment into the company has now been drained so...
Because that content still makes money. It doesn't make a lot of money. It still makes money, though. They still get views. They still get ad revenue. So what do you do with the channel? Do you just give it to a private investor?
So badly that they've lost $353 million in Vice. And to pour salt in the wound...
Well, I mean, it's Disney. They rich as hell anyway. It does not matter.
With $157 million of this being officially written off. And if it couldn't get any worse...
Wait, what? It was a tax write-off? Oh my gosh.
Vice, their core audience, who were looking for edgy material, have all but abandoned ship, as the YouTube stats and Google search trends show, leaving Vice left with only a bunch of nobodies, apathetically pumping out these endless insipid documentaries on uninteresting or lukewarm faux explicit topics. The Vice that was once known for being the cutting edge of journalism is now a shadow of its former self, and in all likelihood, it's only gonna get worse from here.
Amazing video. Amazing video by Moon. I've never seen this guy's stuff, but that's pretty good. That was pretty good. Link in the description if you want to see Moon's video without my commentary or me pausing the video, blah, 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 whatever. Comment, rate, subscribe, and I'll see you guys next time.